So the deal ended up being for something like $2.3 or $2.5 million agreed to. All comes together to insanity at an international Ferrari show where I just want to shoot myself. The guy that was going to sponsor me for the next couple of years to go live my dream to race in Europe, Formula, and chase that dream, and this very likely is my only chance to do it, was now asking me to lie for him. But the young wealthy guy was also a professional con artist. What's up, people? Today I want to talk to you about the nature of sponsors, basically how that can get into dirty politics and integrity for an individual, team, business when you have something like a sponsor. And today I'm going to tell you two stories, one of which, even though I'm not going to say any names, is going to make a lot of very wealthy people angry. And the other one is embarrassing, but a massive learning thing that involves con artists. God. Anyway, this is going to take me a minute, honestly, to get through this, because I've never told these stories publicly, and I just hate reliving them. So, sponsors. Being in the world of cars and racing, of course, being a social media influencer on YouTube, all of these things relate to sponsors, because back in the old days, like when IndyCar got a ton of people watching, it made sense for Domino's Pizza or something to pay loads of money to emblazon a race car with Domino's Pizza because lots of people would see it. Nowadays, for social media influencers, the people who get very, very big will have sponsors to connect with that channel. But you ask yourself oftentimes, do the influencers actually believe in the product? Is the product actually real? Like for instance, is it snake oil? Does it actually work? And you guys obviously see that the ceramic coating company, Avalon King, is in fact a supporter of my channel. And they do have a good product, but we'll get to that later. And I just want to touch on this because this is by no means a commercial. So my first big lesson, life lesson that related to sponsorship happened back, in the early 2000s. I was in my 20s. And I wanted to race. Obviously very good at wrenching, very good at racing, and as any young red-blooded American guy, you want to be a race car driver if you get the opportunity. So there was an individual connected in the Concours world, which at that time I had exhibited some of the cars I restored at them, and people came to find out about me because of my restorations and driving from racing karts and things like that. Now, the truth be told, the cars that I had because I restored and I built them up with my own two hands, and they were cars that people would normally think other people would buy, and the kind of people who would buy those cars would be wealthy people. So everybody thought I was wealthy, but in fact, I just knew how to restore cars and I had good taste. So there it is. There's the magic of Casey Puch back in the day. But anyway, this person in the Concours world was connected with some people who were highly connected in the road racing world in Europe. Formula racing, Formula 3, GP2, some F1 connections, etc. And those people had also been involved with business and were successful in their own right and were beginning to manage some young up-and-coming drivers. One, if I remember correctly, was Guido van der Garde. I think he was, I can't remember where he was from. I can't remember. I don't want to be wrong and get the nationality wrong, but Northern Europe. And if I'm not mistaken, his fiance's father owned a telecommunications company, and part of the deal was when he sold that they had to sponsor him in racing. So he raced in Formula 3 and then tested and drove for GP2, and I think he started testing Formula 1. I don't know how far he went. And they had worked with a bunch of other people. They had some seriously high connections relating from Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari, obviously connected to all the lower tier teams. Because the truth of the matter about racing, whether you're racing in the United States, lower tiers, IndyCar, Pro Mazda, Formula 3, GP2, etc., drivers effectively buy their way into a team that already exists. This isn't some magic old day type of thing where you get a car and a team and a dream and a hope and a prayer. That's not how that works. They're a team, they're business, and drivers bring money, whether it's their own money or sponsor money, whatever, just they want money. And then you drive, and hopefully you don't suck and you can make yourself famous and a big deal, and so that you can get more money to go racing more. That's how that works for most of racing, until maybe you're at the top tier. But even still, it's business and it relates to money. So the setup, long setup, Casey. Shut up, get to the story. Okay, so I was talented enough and interesting enough that I fit a profile. they wanted a young American that, and I'm not kidding, this is what the profile was. Like no facial hair, no tattoos, had to be somebody who had enough manners and poise and etiquette that they could get along with Europeans and not be hated like some West Coast frat boy, because the Europeans don't like that. But basically a young American that was upstanding and clean cut enough, but interesting enough, that had talent, that then could be molded and groomed and promoted to race in Europe. Because if you were fortunate enough to have the right person that they could make go somewhere, an American in Europe at that time, if you could get them to Formula One, and by the way, I don't want any trolls saying, like, who do you think you are? You think you can drive Formula cars in Europe? Get over yourself. I'm telling you how this actually works. If you had the right American, there would be a lot of money that could theoretically get behind high-level racing in Europe and Formula One in the world, because all that American money could come into play. But there's a massive disconnect relating to Americans and American drivers doing international racing and racing. It's been there forever. That's why there's like virtually no Americans involved in Formula One or any good drivers. And there's a lot of circumstances. So anyway, I fit that profile well enough that they were interested in connecting with me, and I talked with them, and of course I want to do it. That's my dream. Like, let's race. I never thought like I could shoot for a dream that high. At that time in my life, I thought it'd be cool to drive, United States, like prototypes or IndyCar or something. But if you get a crazy shot, go for it. That's awesome. And so they liked me. I mean, there was loads of talks going on. There was people signed. I had a person that was like my American liaison. I had a person in Europe that was going to be my manager. There was another person that was going to be just my physical trainer. There was like world duathlon champions that was going to be my physical trainer. And there's a guy that has worked from everybody from like Stephen Hawking to people at McLaren to the RAF that was going to be like your mental trainer. No joke. Like when I say they basically program people to be amazing race car drivers at that level, they do. And that's why the first couple sentences in the packet of a place like that, which I still have somewhere, says that the X Institute, and it's not actually X, I'm just not saying names today, but the X Institute is for athletes where the difference between winning and losing, or like winning and coming in second, is measured in millions of dollars. That's the league of this. But this is the world that I was allowed to like walk in through the front or the side door, and they were interested in their talking with me. The problem was, my family's not actually connected to anything, and my dad has no business sense, and his ability to be successful, it has to do with how damn hard he can work with his own two hands, okay? So he wasn't connected, and that didn't help, nor is the rest of my family. So I was a 20-something-year-old guy with an opportunity to work with people that suddenly had to go from here to here in business and world. And then how am I gonna put it together for board and work with these people to make it happen? Like, sure, they might knock something out of the park and get like, and I remember at the time, I know they talked with McDonald's and Jägermeister, which is funny because I thought if I got sponsored by Jägermeister as an American to go race in Europe and I sucked and just tanked, that they would call me the Jaeger bomb. But that never happened. So they were talking with it, and you always hoped you get the phone call that would be great. But in the meantime, I was working with things and connecting with people here to make something go. And I'm trying to remember the story because I was trying to rub it out of my memory because it sucked. There was a guy who called me, older gentleman, who had been in the car world for years. He's in Michigan. And he was connected by a younger, wealthy guy who was inheriting a car collection to basically be the custodian of his collection. This happens a lot. You know, when I knock on like rich people's collections that are museums, they always hire somebody cheap because economically, if you get a giant collection of cars, it's not that big a deal to hire some guy at $80,000 to $100,000 a year full-time to just work on your cars. It's cheaper than having those cars go out to a mechanic or whatever. So anyway, this old guy was supposed to be a custodian of a super high-end collection that had a bunch of vintage Ferraris and everything like that, right? And he connected with me, and I can't even remember why. Found out about me, I was talking about it, relating to the vintage cars, but also because this younger person wanted to be involved in racing and sponsoring it. So I met this dude, this younger dude, and the older guy, and long story short, the money guy wanted to do it, big time. And I told him, and I think to race Formula 3 Euro Series at that time, including a little bit of money to live, you know, like walking around money or whatever, but you know, not like drinking champagne every day. Something like $800,000 a year to do that, Formula 3. And of course you want to like project so you can keep going. So if you're racing Formula 3, Euro Series the first year, you're doing okay. You want to have some tests in GP2 so that as you're getting better, you can go to the next spot, right? So that costs more money, you got to be ahead of time. I remember meeting with the younger money guy and one of his persons at this golf course that was shut down quietly. It was just us. And I basically gave him the proposal of what it would cost to do this and why it would be valuable to be a sponsor in Europe and all the other connections and everything around internationally that comes from it. And actually it's good positioning in business and block, because there's lots of positives to be involved in racing and sponsors and connections. It has nothing to do with the driver. Like, that's just like scratching the surface of the point of money and connections in racing. It's way bigger and different than you guys actually think. So I'm trying to remember the exact number, but like, he was all for it. And he's like, well, why would we just do 1 year? And I'm like, well, if you're in it to win it and let's go for it, then let's make this serious. Let's plan on at least 2 years and a certain amount to get us into the next, the next level, or like a buffer zone, as well as testing. So the deal ended up being for something like $2.3 or $2.5 million agreed to, that would go to us having a joint racing venture. I, of course, would be driving in Europe, and that's where it would go, and that's what we agreed to. So people shook hands, we're all happy, and then we met with the American liaison guy and a connection of his for a wealth management company in Michigan, in the greater Detroit area. And I remember vividly being there, because this is where I started going like, something's weird about this. And we're there, I can't remember who it was. I don't want to say it wrong, but serious wealth management company, right? Because this, when you're starting to move lots of money around and they want a client for this new rich kid, right? And whatever, that's how it works. So we're there meeting, and this guy that's apparently inheriting the money, right? He like had good manners, but he had bad manners. And I kind of figured his bad manners came from being a rich kid, basically, and getting this money handed to him, that he didn't have to go to a 10, in terms of manners. Like, it was fascinating. And then at dinner afterward, like, he would just kind of sit back in a seat and just like be like this when we're in a formal meeting place. It just, obviously I'm here in a garage, so I'm, but he just like had bad manners and kind of posture and positioning, but he was reasonable. So you could tell he seemed like he came from this, and the whole story and like personality added up. And I remember vividly, we went out to dinner afterward to like celebrate. It was a nicer restaurant. And, he got a wine glass. We got wine, and there was this teeny tiny chip in it. And I swear to God, I've never seen this done other than a movie, because like, I grew up in Ohio. Like, I've seen fancy pants stuff, but come on, there's a line. He sent the wine and the wine glass back because there was the teeniest, tiniest, like pinpoint chip in the glass. And I can't remember if it was on the lip or the bottom, but I'm like, wow, this guy's legit. Only somebody raised with that kind of money would be that over the top to send this back because of this microscopic chip. And the waiter, of course, is like, "Ew, excellent choice, sir. I'll be right back." So I'm thinking this is real, everything's great. And it goes on over the next month or so. And this kind of all comes together to insanity at an international Ferrari show where I just want to shoot myself. So a buddy of mine at the time, back when, was a Ferrari mechanic and had a shop doing restorations. And he was doing some pretty high-end cars. He had just done full restoration on like a carbureted Berlinetta Boxer, gorgeous one, right? To get ready for concourse and such. And actually the show was Cavallino, the one down in Palm Beach, Florida, like the big deal one at the Breakers Hotel. Yeah, that one. So he's going to Cavallino with this Boxster, excuse me, Ferrari people, don't hate me. I've been working on Porsche Boxsters. Anyway, this Ferrari Boxster, Berlinetta Boxer, and I think he had another couple of Ferraris that he took down too. I don't really remember because it's just a car, don't hate me. So I go down there too because the richer, younger guy that's getting this collection, right, it's got Ferraris in it and vintage Ferraris. So, and the old guy's down there. So I'm going along because they're gonna bring a couple of the vintage cars there. And there's a track day at the racetrack close to the Breakers. I forget what it's called. It used to be Moroso, now I think it's Palm Beach Driving Club or something. And it's amazing. The track day for Cavallino is unreal. I mean, all the vintage Ferraris and Maseratis and everything you could imagine out. It's super cool. The only thing I don't like about it, I just have to say this, is it's super elite just for like Ferrari and Maseratis and the race cars. That it's kind of like, this would be cooler if you guys would actually come out to a vintage race where there were like other cars from the time period. Sort of, whatever. That's a topic for a separate topic. But anyway, I vividly remember being there. I'm at the track. This truck and trailer is supposed to arrive with Ferraris, and I literally have my helmet in a helmet bag at the track because I'm like going to test these or help shake them down or just show them off or whatever. And I get dropped off the track by my Ferrari mechanic buddy, and the truck doesn't show up. And I get a call, and I call the guy, and he didn't answer, and I'm like, where is it? He's like, well, they had a problem with like a flat tire or something, and their 4 hours away or something. It doesn't show up. And I'm just like, well, I feel like an idiot. I'm here at a track. I don't even have a car by myself in like the wealthiest track day in the world with a helmet like a schmuck. And I talked to the guy that runs it. And I said, is this name down? Are these people showing up? Do you know when they're coming? Have you got any word? And he's like, well, no word yet. But yeah, sorry, man. I'm like, yeah, I'm supposed to drive and look after these cars with these guys. And the guy who was running the event, or like one of the stewards, he's like, well, that's too bad, man. Well, let me introduce you to some people. Maybe they'll let you drive a car too. And I'm like, wow, that's really nice. That's cool. Okay. And I got introduced to some nice, enthusiasts and some car owners and whatnot from around the world. And I had a generally pretty good day. No one actually let me drive their cars though. I guess the guy didn't have the balls to ask. But it was fun. Saw really great cars, but the truck never showed up. And I'm like, what in the hell? And I remember later that night, and I never heard from a guy, I'm like, what is with these people? So I remember that evening, I was at the hotel. I think I had a room with my Ferrari mechanic buddy. We had fun. We went out of town, and we had just great laughs. I remember just laughing so hard we were crying. It was a great night when we were driving around. That was a good time. And I'm at the hotel, and the old guy's down there somewhere, the old guy that's going to manage the collection, right? And he... I can't remember if he's in another hotel or something. I was talking to him, and he's like, I don't know what's going on. I'm going to kill this kid, like the rich guy. And so I finally got, the rich guy calls me, the kid that's going to inherit it with the car collection, and things took a turn. And he says to me, I can't even remember the old guy's name. Like I said, I've tried to wipe this memory because it was terrible. He says to me, yeah, I don't know what's going on. Can you just tell him where I'm at? And what suddenly happened is the guy that was going to sponsor me for the next couple of years to go like live my dream to race in Europe, Formula, and chase that dream, and this very likely is my only chance to do it, was now asking me to lie for him to people. The guy that was going to be the custodian of the collection, the track, on like where he was, what's actually going on. And not just like a white lie, but really lie. And I'm like, yeah, man, I think you should just tell him yourself or figure it out. And I'm like, this is crap. And I was getting pretty mad because I didn't realize what was really going on yet. And there were some other things to this, but I'm shortening this topic for the sake of this YouTube video. And please forgive me for kind of bouncing around. And I'm like, something's really wrong here. And at the very least, I'm like, can't deal with that. Like, I can't be bought. This is a team effort. We do something together in business and racing. But I'm not your little pawn. I'm not your little hot boy race car driver for you to pay to do whatever you want. And I remember being at the Breakers, beautiful hotel, Cavallina Ferrari shows going on, and I'm walking around by myself. My buddy's off showing the Ferrari or whatever with his guy, and I'm just walking around. And it was getting worse. Like, they was asking me to lie, and nothing was happening, and this thing's not showing up, and everything's wrong. And I'm like, keep in mind that there's a little bit more to this, but I'm just getting frustrated beyond belief by this person, because there's just no integrity. And I remember sitting on the Breakers wall behind the hotel looking at the ocean, and it hit, and that was a like life moment. I'm like, how much does this dream mean to me? And where's the line? And I thought about it. I probably sat there for an hour. And it wasn't so much that I had a thought, but I like knew what I had to do. So I called the guy. Of course, he didn't answer. The rich guy. And I left a message. I say, I've been thinking about it. And this arrangement and the nature of our working relationship here, asking me to do these things for you and say these things and not showing up, doesn't work for me. Respectfully, I would like to decline your sponsorship and our deal. I wish you luck and thank you, but I'm out. Left a message. And I gotta be honest, like, I was glad I was wearing sunglasses at the time and I was like on the beach and everybody's on the other side of the hotel, because I'm pretty sure I had a little bit of a tear or two. Because like, guys from Ohio don't get dream shots. It doesn't matter how talented you are or what you can do. matters what your pre-positioning is. So I knew what I did. I just gave up over $2 million in going racing in Europe and kind of having a cool dream because I didn't want to get manipulated and lie for people and be pushed around. Just didn't work for me. So, I got over myself, and then I felt pretty good, free. It's like being a free man. And I've said this a couple times on my channel, not many people can afford to be honest. Not many people are free. And I knew then I was still free, so I had fun. And actually, it's funny because I was walking around, I must have looked okay or had a good life glow about me after that because I swear to God, I was sitting down and this girl comes up to me and goes, "Are you from around here?" And I was too dumb as a young man to know that was a pickup line. I just got a pickup line thrown at me. I'm like, no, actually, I'm from Ohio. And she looks at me and goes, "Okay, you're in Palm Beach at a Ferrari show. You're from Ohio. This makes no sense." And then she actually ended up being, I think she was an aerospace engineer, nice girl. She's like, "What are you doing later?" I'm like, "Nothing. You want to have some fun?" So we ended up going dancing in the town and go out, went to a sushi place. We had a great time. And actually she'd been around racing and I told her what just happened. And she said, "You're the one in control. You have the power. Screw that, people. It's a terrible sponsor. You can get more sponsors, but you can't get your integrity back." And that felt really good. And had just a ton of fun that day and that evening and going out and stuff. And it's funny because the jackwagon rich kid guy, whatever, called me later, and I'm going somewhere with this. He called me later and he says, he's like, "I got your message. It's so sad. I want to do something. What? I really want to do this. We can make this happen." And I'm like, "Dude, you showed your hand. Respectfully, this isn't going to work for me. And if we were ever going to have a conversation about doing something again, it would have to be on much different terms, period." So I just left it at that, and he was nice, and he was trying to get it going. What I came to find out later, and this is maybe that life test, right, to find out who you are. It didn't matter whether it was going to happen or not, but I came to find out that young, wealthy guy, parts of the story from him were true, and the story about the old guy that was going to look after his collection was true. But the young, wealthy guy was also a professional con artist. He wasn't trying to con me. He was trying to con the old guy out of his inheritance. He had money, and he got it from doing that. So when I talk on this channel about the nature of cons and the ability to manipulate people, extortion, manipulation, coercion, etc., tactics that are used anywhere from car salesmen to business to sponsors, etc., I actually do know a thing or two because I've seen them. And the funny thing is, in this circumstance, he wasn't trying to con me. The old guy was the mark. I was just part of the big game. Because the potential of pulling a story this big, if you can buy a race car driver for a cheaper amount of money of a couple of $1,000,000 that you can get to lie for you and be your bitch, it makes it easier for you to con other people. The problem was, you can't buy me, and I'm not dumb. So I started to figure out there was something really wrong with this guy, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And I told the old guy before I left, I had my rental car Mustang in Palm Beach, and I dropped him off at the show, driving the Breakers Hotel, and I said to him, and I didn't know this yet, I found this out later about the con artist thing. I said to him, I'm like, "Look, you need to think long and hard before you do any business with this guy. You cannot trust him. Here's why." And the old guy is still duped. I couldn't get through to him. He said, "Well, you got to keep your friends close, your enemies closer," and stuff like that. I'm like, I can't save this guy. He doesn't get it. So I just bailed. I remember flying back, and I think that's the day I started hating flying commercial flights. I have no problem flying in an F-16, but I hate flying commercial because I always feel like we're gonna die. And it's not a cool way to go. So it was a bumpy ride on the way back, and I was just in a bad mood. And I'm like, what in the hell did I just do with my life? And so the con went on more, and I couldn't connect with him, but we started to put the pieces together because the con guy picked with the wrong guy, me, and the other people who were all real people that were highly connected in Europe and the United States. So people started investigating. And I still remember when the one guy called me the older man in business in Europe. He's German. And he goes, I'm not going to do the accent right, forgive me. But he's like, "Casey, so this guy, we must him. I'm like, ooh, you pissed off the Germans. It was a bad deal, but that's something that really stuck with me forever. I've got another story that I'm going to save for the sake of this, about how I also saw big sponsors go into play and be totally dirty in the world of racing, as you guys can imagine. But I bring this to you right now as a growing social media influencer and YouTube figure, because if and when I have a sponsor or contributor or a team type thing that allows me to have this channel and bring you guys actual wholesome and real content instead of just superficial, sensational garbage, let me put it this way. I turned down the biggest dream I ever had as a young person and a couple of $1 million because I wouldn't be manipulated to lie to people. Do you really think I'm going to have a sponsorship on this little YouTube channel right now for something that isn't good or real? Wouldn't that be lying? You can't buy me. You can't buy my integrity. And I hope that you guys out there realize how valuable your core values are and your integrity, whatever it is you believe in. Don't let yourself be bought. So that's all I wanted to say. But yeah, thanks for watching and being here. I hate that story. So anyway, yeah, I think tomorrow I'm gonna do a thing where I ceramic coat my 928, and I'm gonna test out how well that has worked on my 944, and you can take it to the bank that it's gonna be real. So I hope you guys enjoy this story, and I'll see you next time. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and naturally that you will subscribe, but please click that bell so I can continue to bring you wholesome and entertaining automotive content. Also, a huge thanks to Avalon King Ceramic Coating. They're supporting this channel and making this all possible. But more importantly, I'm looking forward to using it on all of my vehicles, including my old dirt bike. Ceramic coating bonds directly to the surface of your paint, trim, and plastics to give a long-lasting shine that beats all waxes. It lasts for years and it's easy to maintain. I've got it on my Viper right now, and my car has never looked this good. So give them a try. Again, thanks for watching, and I look forward to see you next time.